right, we're going to restart our
Systems are go.
proceedings due to technical challenges this morning. So we're going to have our General Counsel, Mark Silverman, call the roll.
Chair Carroll.
Here.
Vice Chair Bland. Commissioner Chapin. Here. Commissioner Chen. Commissioner Chu. Here. Commissioner Ginsburg. Here. Commissioner Goldblum is here. Commissioner Jefferson.
Here.
Commissioner Lutfi.
Here.
Commissioner Master.
Here.
All right, so we're going to begin this morning with our public meeting items, our public meeting agenda, which are items, applications for work on designated properties where they've already had a public hearing and they're back today with revisions. And then we were going to move to our public hearing agenda to review new applications for work on designated properties. And this meeting is being held in our public hearing room at 1 Center Street on the 9th floor. It is also being held via Zoom and live streamed on our YouTube channel. And I'm going to now turn it over to our Director of Preservation, Corey Harala, to take us through our agendas.
Okay, thank you. We'll start today's Preservation Department agenda with public meeting item number 1, LPC 24-08211, an application for a certificate of appropriateness in the Borough of the Bronx, Block 5819, Lot 2115, 407 West 246th Street in the Fieldston Historic District. This is a Georgian Revival style house designed by Dwight James Bauman, built in 1917-18. The application is construct a rooftop addition, modify an entrance vestibule and garage roof, and replace railings. This was last presented at the public hearing of September 17th, 2024, and no action was taken at that time. Staff will present the revisions to the proposal in response to your comments.
All right, good morning again, Commissioners, Michelle Creer and Preservation staff. So this proposal includes the construction of a rooftop addition, modification of an entrance vestibule and garage roof at the side facade, and replacement of the non-historic railings above the 2 enclosed porches. At the public hearing, Commissioners present expressed a consensus of support for the modifications to the vestibule and garage and the replacement of the porch railings as presented. Commissioners present also expressed a consensus of support for a rooftop addition. However, there were concerns about the scale and massing of the addition, the scale of the fenestration at the addition, its proposed finish, and the proposed splayed addition to the roof line, and concern that the proposed splayed addition to the roof line was not harmonious with the building's original gable. So I will walk you through the changes and also review the other proposed work that Commissioners supported last time, since it's been a few months. So then once again, to orient you, at the corner of West 246th and Livingston Avenue, it is an L-shaped building with the primary entrance on West 246th and the garage and secondary entrance on that side facade. The area marked in red here is the location of an existing addition above which the proposed addition will be constructed. As mentioned, the house was designed by Dwight James Baum in the Georgian Revival style, and here you can see the original plan on the bottom right of the building. Moving ahead. So to address the concern regarding the finish of the building, the color was changed from white to a light gray, intended to complement the existing slate roofing. And here are some examples of existing additions in the district that were previously approved by the commission, including this one at 5011 Waldo Avenue, another Baum designed building. Also 4637 Grosvenor Ave. And here are 2 additions that were constructed prior to the designation of the district, including at 4655 Grosvenor Ave and 4547 Livingston Ave. These images show the mock-up that was completed last year with the original massing of the proposed addition. This is the only view where you can see the addition from a street. Here you can see an updated rendering of the rear facade of the addition, just noting that the one as previously proposed on the left is actually incorrect, but you'll see the actual previously proposed elevation in the next slide. So that is on the left. To address the concern of the massing of the addition, it's been set back from the rear facade of the existing addition approximately 3 feet and the side by 1.5 feet. Additionally, the fenestration has been simplified and a small hipped skirt roof has been added to replacing the previously proposed splayed roof addition at the side. Here you can see the changes to the side facade. A window was added, the cornice was simplified, and that corner pier seen on the left was removed. And here's a comparison of the proposed plans showing the setbacks and the change in the proposal at the adjacent roof. So detailed sections of the previously and currently proposed conditions, previously on top and current on the bottom. And the side rendering, again, the color of the addition was changed in response to commissioners' comments about the white finish prior. Lastly, just wanted to quickly walk you through the aspects of the work that the commissioners were in support of last time, including the replacement of non-historic railings at the 2 enclosed porches on the sides of the building. The new railings will have a code compliant height along with a metal mesh backing, also to comply with code requirements, while recreating the proportions of the existing railing in the center position, or sorry, the historic railing in the center position. Here's that side facade view of the same railings. And just showing the historic on this slide. And then at the garage on the right, the original garage design, which was later extended farther out as seen on the left. The proposal is to flatten the roof of the garage, which currently has a slope, and install a walkway on top with railings to match those of the porches in order to provide direct access to the rear yard as shown here. And then a new door will be installed at the side, and the existing lattice work will be removed and salvaged for reinstallation. And here's a detail of the door and reinstalled lattice work proposed there. And then I will just go forward a little bit to show a good image of all of the proposed work. Let's see, I think on this slide, it's a good one to stop at. The architect is here and can answer any questions that you have as well.
So commissioners, do we have questions for the applicant? Yeah.
I just want to clarify for Russ, what specifically were our concerns last time? I remember there were issues of
Yeah.
the rooftop massing
Right.
request
So
for.
last time, everybody supported the change to the garage roof line, converting the window to the door to create a walkway and installing railings that match the historic design, but modified to be code compliant. So everybody's comments focused on the rooftop addition. And I think that the general sense is that it should read more like a dormer. And so we suggested that they set it back from the rear, set it in from the side, because they had a funny kind of splayed roof to deal with the connection at the side. So eliminating that, setting it back on the side and at the back. And then we also had concerns about the scale of the windows. So they've reduced those to be more in line with the rest of the house and to overall make the addition read as a dormer. And they also changed the color, which was another comment we had.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, so let's move to our discussion. And I think we all, as I said, supported all the components of this application and even the concept of a rooftop addition. But in this location on top of a modern addition, felt that it should be treated and expressed more as a dormer. And the applicant has made all of the changes that we had suggested. So let's start our discussion. Commissioner Lutfi, would you like to start this one?
Yeah, as you said, Sarah, we were largely in favor of all the changes. This is a lovely home, and I think the work overall the proposal has been excellent. I think these changes work. What they're trying to accomplish is quite difficult, and displayed roof wasn't working, but I think this new hip roof that reads more like a dormer works better. It's slightly smaller in scale, and the windows work better as well.
Commissioner Chu?
Yes, I think that the revisions the applicant has made do respond well to the comments that we made. The massing of the rooftop addition seem diminished and don't confuse the original historic house design massing. And I think that's good. You can really tell where the addition was added. The window simplification brings less attention to it. I think that's an improvement. And I think the color making it more like the rooftop helps it also. The white was a little attracting too much attention and relating it maybe too much to the historic white pieces at the ground level. So I think everything here looks good and appropriate.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Master.
Yeah, I agree with all the comments. I think the applicant was very responsive and did exactly what we asked, and I can find this appropriate.
Commissioner Jefferson?
I think it, it works better, but not completely. And my problem is that I think the south and east elevation work beautifully. I think the north elevation is kind of awkward. The way the dormer hits the roof at the detail, somehow that could be studied with staff. If you look at the way the dormer hits the gable, it's kind of odd, and it just, I don't know.
Okay.
And then on the other elevation works very well. The west elevation, I think, is much better than before. I think the railing, the concept of the railing is with the mesh backing works very well. Incredibly good detail. I think the entrance vestibule and garage roofs are appropriate. And so those are my comments.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Ginsburg?
I agree with the other commissioners who felt this was appropriate. They've made significant improvements.
Okay. All right, and Commissioner Chapin?
Yes, I agree. The changes, including the color change to light gray, the fenestrations, and having windows now aligned with the lower stories, with the other building, and the setback, the roof line changes all make it appropriate.
Okay, so I think that we have a consensus or we have enough to support this as is. We can ask them that they can continue to detail that connection there, working with the staff, but we'll approve it as is. I think we have the votes for that today.
In the matter of docket 24-08211, 407 West 246th Street, Fieldston Historic District, a Georgian Revival style house designed by Dwight James Baum and built in 1917 to 1918. The application is to construct a rooftop addition, modify an entrance, vestibule, and garage roof, and replace railings. I note that the building's style, scale, materials, and details are among the features that contribute to the special architectural and historic character of the Fieldston Historic District. I also note that at some point in 1918, the garage was modified to extend beyond the plane of the facade. I further note that in 1938, the NYC City Planning Commission created a special zone for Fieldston, limiting new construction to single-family residences, and that in 1974, the Planning Commission established the Special Natural Area District to guide the development to preserve significant natural features by requiring CPC review of site alterations and new development. I recommend approval, finding that the work will not damage, eliminate, or conceal any significant architectural features, that the proposed rooftop addition will not be visible over a primary facade and will only be visible over secondary facades from oblique angles, that the materiality and finishes of the addition, featuring light gray finished wood cladding, white finished multi-light windows, slate roofing, and copper gutters, will be compatible with the materials of the main house, that the addition will be inset from the facades and terminate below the roof line of the main building, resulting in a subordinate presence at the roof, that the proposed portion of new roofing will recall a hipped roof and will help to break up the massing of the addition when seen from the street, that the existing railings at the porches are not historic and are in a deteriorated condition warranting their replacement, that the proposed railing design will closely recall the design of the historic railings at the porches while providing code-compliant fall protection by introducing mesh backing that will only be minimally perceptible from the street, that the garage was altered and extended over time. Therefore, the removal and flattening of the existing non-original slate roof will not eliminate a significant feature, that the proposed railings at the roof of the garage will match the design of the railings at the porches, thereby helping to unify the design of the facades, that the design of the proposed multi-light door and side light at the historic secondary entrance vestibule will be based on existing historic doors and windows at the house and will harmonize with the remaining infill at the vestibule, that the existing historic lattice work will be salvaged, modified, and reinstalled in the existing location, and that the work will not detract from the special architectural and historic character of the building or the Fieldston Historic District. I recommend that the applicant continue.
Oh, no, well, I think it's a straight approval.
Okay, great, thank you.
All right, Commissioner Chu, would you second that motion?
Second.
Mark?
Chair Carroll,
Aye.
Commissioner Chapin,
Aye.
Commissioner Chu,
Aye.
Commissioner Ginsburg,
Aye.
Commissioner Jefferson.
Aye.
Commissioner Lutfi. Commissioner Master.
Aye.
With 8 in favor, none opposed, the motion.
So that's approved. Thank you. We'll move to the next item.
Next item is public meeting item number 2, LPC 24-08215, an application for a certificate of appropriateness in the Borough of Brooklyn, block 1838, lots 10 and 11, 164 Hancock Street in the Bedford Historic District. This is a parking area and a garage building. The application is to demolish the garage and construct a new building. It was last presented at the public hearing of October 22nd, 2024. No action was taken at that time. The applicants are here to present some revisions to the proposal after we open the proceedings.
Okay, we'll do that right now. Commissioner Master, oh, sorry, Commissioner Chapin, would you make a motion to open the proceedings?
So moved.
Thank you. Mayor Ginsburg, would you second that? motion?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, you may begin.
Hi, Commissioners and Landmark staff. Happy New Year. It's nice to see all of you again. My name is Jackie Pudi-Ballin, JPD Preservation Consulting. I'm here today with Ana Maria Torres of AT Architects. You previously saw this proposal as part of a larger application at the public hearing of October 22nd, 2024, which included at that time a proposal for a new building on this empty lot that you see photographed here. As we work to respond to Commissioner comments on the design of that new building, we are asking for a separate approval just to move forward with the demolition of the existing garage that's at the rear of the lot. So here you see the location in the Bedford Historic District with this unique L-shaped lot highlighted on the district map, existing condition photos, where you can see just a portion really of the existing garage from the empty lot, which will eventually entirely be obscured really when there is a new building built there. Here is the existing garage. I couldn't ascertain exactly when it was constructed, but probably between 1920s, 1930s. It's concrete block and face brick. Here's some maps to show you the evolution of the lot, where we first see the garage. Actually, I don't see it on that Sanborn from 2007. That's interesting. Or no, I think it is there. Okay. In any case, this is the survey, so you can see where the existing garage is at the rear of an existing building, which is 168 Hancock. And that's it. That's our proposal.
Okay. All right, any questions on this? Yes, Commissioner Chu.
I don't remember this application, maybe I wasn't here, but how unusual that.
It's
that
a very,
Why, what is that a trace of from history, that diagonal there?
the L-shaped lot.
Well, there's even the diagonal that
Mhm.
cuts through the rectilinear block at an angle like that.
Well, originally it was all one lot owned by the house that you see sort of in the center of this survey, which is 168. Can I use this? So yeah, so this house was the original, mansion on the property. And somehow it originally had this L-shaped lot, which was subsequently subdivided into 2 separate empty lots next door. And you still had this unique condition of this stretch of rear yard coming around behind it and behind neighboring properties. So that's really all we know about the site.
And the lot would be what's being bound, lot 10 is the L shape then, and the garage is in the elbow right there. But
Yes.
the doors that we see in the picture are what side of that?
I'm going to introduce the architect and answer some questions.
Good
Nice to see
morning.
you
Just
again.
maybe speak a little closer to the microphone
Sorry.
so our
Nice to
viewers
see
on
you
Zoom can
again.
hear. Yeah.
This originally, this lot, as you can see here, this is the original house, 168, and this property has composed of 3 lots. There were 3 separate lots, then they kept it as a garden. You know, the 168, where is this, the existing structure, the survey, as Jackie was indicating, and you see it in all the Sanborn maps. The Sanborn maps, they are all have that, the lot is always in diagonal.
Yeah, that's.
You
what I-
see, and then you see here is also in diagonal, and it has been like this, I think, because reading a little bit about 168, and maybe I am confused. He was the developer of some of the houses, then this is why he kind of recreate between these 3 lots. Also, the width of the lots is different because in reality should be 4 lots, but he recreated the 168 is a larger width, for example. Then lot 10 has a different width, and lot 11 has a different width, because I think he was the developer, then at that time he kind of recreate. Then it has that, that interesting shape of that diagonal. The thing happened is originally this part, the garage, plus this arm, it was belonged to 168, but the new owner did a reapportionment with lot 10, and then lot 10 is the one that keeps the angle
The L
part of
shape.
the lot. Yeah.
And I mean, I'm sorry, this is beyond the application. I'm just very curious because I've never seen a block like this where, what are the rights to build a new structure in this block? Is it in that spot? I've never seen.
Well, the proposal that came to us was to demolish the garage and then construct a new building on lot 10 at the street wall.
At the
So it
street
would look
wall.
like a row house out in the
Okay,
street.
so then this would be.
This was going to be
landscape.
rear yard.
Understood.
By zoning, you couldn't
I've
build
never
there
seen-
because with the 2 rear yards, there's nothing that isn't rear yard.
I was just wondering if the existing structure allowed any kind of grandfathering of that. That's why.
So no, the plan was to have that be
Okay.
rear yard.
Yeah,
Understood.
the new plan will be then the building is located here aligned with the facade. And then in here will be just a communal garden.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, so I think we can move to our discussion on this one. This one's pretty straightforward. We've already approved a new building on the lot to the left of lot 10. And then we saw an application for lot 10, which included the demolition of the garage and a new building on lot 10 facing the street. And we had comments about the depth of the addition, the new building and its design at the rear. So the applicants are still working on that proposal, but they'd like to move ahead with the demolition of the garage. At the time that we heard the item at the public hearing in October, everyone at the table expressed support for the demolition of the garage at that time. So I think they just want to move ahead with it now. So we'll begin our discussion. Commissioner Chapin, would you like to start this?
Sure. I think that, it's a undistinguished building, which just is a very utilitarian. And it's, as we've been discussing, a very peculiar situation. It's not like it's part of a row of garages or something. So I really have no problem with him demolishing it and, trying to work out a new configuration for the site. So.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Chu?
I agree with Commissioner Chapin.
Commissioner Jefferson?
I
Yes.
agree.
Okay. Oh, Commissioner Master?
It's appropriate.
All right, Commissioner Goldblum and Commissioner Ginsburg? All good?
Yeah,
Okay,
fine.
great. And we'll note for the record that Commissioner Lutfi is recused on this item. So I think we have a consensus to support. Commissioner Chapin, would you make the motion?
Sure.
If I could just, one reminder too, this is going to be an approval in part and a no action in part, since we're only dealing with the garage at this point in time, and they will come back for the new building later. So we read in the motion.
Right, so you'll say I recommend approval in part.
Okay, fine.
Did we write it that way? Okay.
Matter of an a certificate of appropriateness, Borough of Brooklyn, LPC 2408-215, the 164 Hancock Street, Bedford Historic District, a parking area and a garage building. Application is to demolish the garage and construct a new building. I note that I note that the lot is within the Bedford Historic District, which consists mainly of masonry row houses constructed between 1870 and 1900, ranging from modest Italianate and Neo-Grec houses built in the 1870s to lavishly ornamented Neo-Grec, Queen Anne, Romanesque Revival, and Renaissance Revival structures from the 1880s and 1890s. I recommend approval in part, finding that the existing garage is a simply designed secondary structure built later than the main house at 168 Hancock Street, and is not a unique or significant example of historic buildings of this type, and that the garage is set significantly back from the street, is only seen from limited views from a public thoroughfare as a background element. Therefore, its demolition will not detract from the site, streetscape, or historic district.
Thank you. And Commissioner Ginsburg, would you second that motion?
Second.
Mark, will you call the vote?
Chair Carroll,
Aye.
Commissioner Chapin,
Aye.
Commissioner Chu,
Aye.
Commissioner Ginsburg,
Aye.
Commissioner Goldblum, Commissioner Jefferson,
Aye.
Commissioner Master.
Aye.
With 7 in favor, none opposed, the motion passes.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right, we'll move to the item number 3 on our public meeting agenda.
Public meeting item number 3 is LPC 25-04036, an application for a certificate of appropriateness in the Borough of Manhattan, Block 614, Lot 25, 244 Waverly Place in the Greenwich Village Historic District. This is a pair of Romanesque Revival style row houses designed by William B. Tuttle and built in 1886. The application is to combine the buildings, modify the front and side facade, lower the areaway, reconstruct the rear facades, construct a rooftop addition, and excavate the cellar. This was last presented at the public hearing on December 10th, 2024. No action was taken at that time. The applicants are here to present revisions to the proposal in response to your comments after we open the proceedings.
All right, thank you. And Commissioner Master, would you make a motion to open the proceedings?
So moved.
Thank you. Commissioner Jefferson, would you second that?
Say
motion?
second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay.
Any opposed? Okay, you may begin.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. Sarah Sher Higgins Quaisbarth and Partners, and I will take you through the revisions to the 244 Waverly Place proposal that you saw on December 10th. Juliet Hernandez-Eli from Hernandez-Eli Architecture is also here and available to answer any questions. So on December 10th, the Commissioners were largely supportive of the work that the Director of Preservation just summarized, but had concerns about the visibility of the rooftop addition as well as the design of the rear elevation. So today I will present the changes to those 2 aspects of the proposed work. So here we have the previous proposal for the rooftop addition on the left and the current proposal on the right. To summarize the changes, we removed the wall on the south side that you see here. We've revised the slope of the stair bulkhead to make it steeper, which allows it to be shorter. This also allowed us to remove a parapet that was running north-south across the front that was providing code required life safety. We changed that into a setback mesh fence, which exposed some of these mechanical systems, but we determined those to not be visible from the street. However, lowering this did make these condenser units visible, so they've been switched to the south side of the property. And then just looking from the other side to show again the removal of that sidewall, the revised slope of the bulkhead, and then pushing all of this back and also allowing the front of the rooftop addition to be much shorter. This is the front elevation, just showing that effect in elevation of making the revised slope of the bulkhead read lower, and then that mesh that lightens up the reading of the rooftop addition. The north elevation, which we'll look at in more detail in a couple of slides, shows that revised slope and the shortening of the top of the roof by changing from a parapet to a mesh railing. You also notice this I'll move a little farther away. You'll also notice that the FDNY ladder can be moved to just be a straight run up and not at an angle the way it was previously. South elevation showing the removal of the sidewall and the change from a parapet to a mesh railing. And then again, going to the north, just to show dimensionally the decrease in height and also projection out by increasing the slope. We set back the addition 1 foot 11 inches, almost 2 feet, and then we get rid of about 3 feet 2.5 inches of height from the top. There were a lot of questions about code and what code requires in terms of stair bulkhead and its location on the side elevation. We restudied this just to make sure that what we were proposing was really the only option. We looked at trying to rotate it, to move it back, but because of 2022 code that requires a continuous stair all throughout the house up to the roof, and there has to be a continuous passage between that, even just a little bit of adjustment compromise that continuous passage code. And we're happy to go back to this if there are any specific questions about the 22 code requirement. This is a section through the stair bulkhead that goes up to the roof of the addition. We're showing a 6 foot 8 inch floor to ceiling height, which is the minimum required to meet code for that part of the stair bulkhead. This is a section through the occupiable part of the addition, looking west, showing the 8.5 foot floor to ceiling heights, but also just showing that we have an elevator shaft that requires this amount of clearance in order to stay within the existing height of the rooftop addition and not requiring a bulkhead above. So we revised the mock-up to reflect this revised proposal. Reminder that the proposal was never visible from across the street in front of the house. From West 11th Street and Waverly Place, we have the previous proposal on the right and the current proposal on the left, and the zoomed in view showing the reduction in visibility. Going directly adjacent to the house on the south, previous on the left, current on the right, showing a substantial amount of visibility reduced by the revisions. Going right next to the house to the north, showing over the side elevation, that steeper slope allows it to be pushed back and also allows the top to go in by not going as tall and also setting back with a mesh railing instead of a parapet. And then that view from Bank Street and Waverly Place, this steeper reading also is more in keeping with the roof line of a studio skylight, I think. You'll see the FDNY ladder, which was previously visible, now is sunk down and not visible from this vantage point. Going around to the rear, commissioners were largely supportive of the reconstruction of the rear facade, but had concerns about the design, taking away the reading of 2 houses, and wanted to see more extension of the division to the bottom. So we brought the brick pier all the way down to the bottom. We also have a brick spandrel in between the 1st and 2nd floor so that these read more like punched window openings. And the scale of these openings are in keeping with what commissioners approve throughout the Greenwich Village Historic District. Materiality, again, is true Israel brick and steel frames around the window openings. And while majority of commissioners were supportive of the proposed work at the front facade, just wanted to reiterate the appropriateness of this scope. When the existing facade was disfigured in the 1950s intervention, it lost its rating as 2 separate row houses. This isn't only because of the removal of the 2 stoops and the installation of a central door and a side service door, but also the modification of the sill locations to be up to allow for standard double hung windows to be placed in, created an overall composition of an apartment building character. Additionally, the various masonry opening changes butchered the historic sill and band courses and removed the horizontality of the facade. So this proposal restores these window openings to their original heights, which gives that scale of the 19th century row house development. It also restores the missing brownstone and terracotta banding, returning horizontality to the composition. Although there's only 1 entrance in this proposal, it reads much more as a row house development than the existing condition that has 2 doors because of these restorative notes. Additionally, this is a very unique setting. Our office reviewed all of the short block sides in the Greenwich Village Historic District, and there are no other mid-block sites where two row houses sit freestanding without development adjacent to them. So we believe the combination of the compromised facade along with the unique setting and the restorative design makes this an appropriate application, and we hope you agree. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Do we have questions on? Yes, Commissioner Ginsburg.
The one comment that I have from my notes the last time is I think we'd asked for the top floor of the rear facade to be set back. It doesn't look like it is. Is that correct, or am I missing something?
Facade. You're talking about this?
Yes.
Part of it? It is slightly set back. Right? Yeah. Do you want to come up?
Yeah, just state your name for the record also.
Oh, yes. My name's Juliet Hernandez Eli. And if we go, it's best illustrated in this section. Oops. In this section, so it is slightly set back from the rear, just a small setback amount. We couldn't set back any further without encroaching on the minimum room size dimension. So we would have lost both bedrooms on the back of the
Thank
facade.
you.
Any other questions? All right, I think we can then move to our discussion. So as was presented, the last time we saw this application, we noted that the building had undergone a lot of alterations in the mid-20th century with the removal of the stoop and altering the windows, which essentially turned it into an apartment building. And so the last time we saw this, most commissioners supported the approach to the facade and actually complimented the level of restoration of materials and fenestration. And most commissioners felt that it was not necessary to create a false door on one side of the building based on the history of alterations and also the fact that it was a freestanding pair of row houses. But everyone present agreed that the bulkhead should be smaller and less visible, and there were various suggestions on how to do that. And so the applicant has made a number of changes, including lowering one portion of the bulkhead, eliminating the entire parapet, and shifting mechanical equipment. And most commissioners were comfortable with cutting back the rear facade and the design of the rear facade. But every one of those commissioners felt that there should be more articulation, particularly at the double height glass windows, and suggested bringing that vertical pier down. So the applicants have presented a revised proposal today that introduces a vertical pier down the center of the double height window assembly. So we'll begin our discussion. Commissioner Ginsburg, I think you also did talk about setting the rooftop addition back further. I think two commissioners mentioned that.
General, I'll be interested what others say, but the issues we raised last time have been addressed. And this is a significant improvement on the design, so I think it's appropriate and I can approve it.
Commissioner Chapin?
Yeah, I agree that the changes to the rooftop, the setback, the lowering of the bulkhead and the changes, those changes move it, make it more acceptable than previously. And also I can approve the changes to the front, which move it closer to the historic condition. And the changes in the back with the fenestration and the pier, I think improve its relationship to other rears and make it more appropriate. So I can approve this as presented.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Lutfi?
I agree with my fellow commissioners. I do want to say that this facade of the building in particular was severely altered in such a negative way. And I really appreciate the hard work that the applicant has put into this and their responsiveness to our input. I think all of the changes that they made, both on the front and the rear, work very, very well, and I can approve this.
Commissioner Chu?
Yeah, I think that the improvements have all, moved the design, to a less prominent rooftop addition. And I think that's were some of our concerns, that we felt that some of the mass was unnecessary. And it looks like they've spent a lot of effort to really make it work. I like the fact that it has a more contemporary aesthetic to it. That doesn't, actually, I think that's a plus. And because of its reduction, it sits well on the existing building mass. And the overall work to the front facade is, I think, fantastic, and we're really excited about this project.
Thank you. Commissioner Master?
Yeah, the applicant did a very good job in reducing the bulkhead visibility, setting it back, reducing the height. They did a lot of little things that really make a big difference. And then in the rear facade, bringing the, I guess, the pier, the brick pier all the way down, addresses the concerns that we had about addressing it to make it appear the history of it having been two separate buildings. So I think they did a great job. I think it's appropriate.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Jefferson?
Yeah, the proposed design is much better than the existing building. And the comments by the commissioners really help improve it. The size of the penthouse, all our comments really made the proportions really nice. I think it's an excellent job. And if it was pushed back 3 feet, I just leave a question, but it's very well done.
Thank you. And Commissioner Goldblum, and I think you had more concerns about this application at the rear with the,
Yeah, I think it's been significantly improved and I'm okay with it.
okay, great. All right, so I think we have a consensus to approve.
With regards to LPC 25-04036, 344 Waverly Place, Greenwich Village Historic District, a pair of Romanesque Revival style row house designed by William B. Trumbull and built in 1886. Application is to combine the buildings, modify the front and side facade, lower the area way, reconstruct the rear facade, construct a rooftop addition, and excavate the cellar. I note that the building style, scale, material, and details are among the features that contribute to the special architectural and historic character of the Greenwich Village Historic District. I further note that the building was originally built as two separate houses which were combined between 1959 and 1961 prior to designation as one apartment building with both stoops removed. I recommend approval, finding that the buildings are historically built as a pair of houses were combined into one apartment building and heavily altered over time with the loss of both stoops. Therefore, the proposed alteration at the first floor will bring it closer to its historic appearance, that the reconstruction of the stoop at the north building will recall the historic stoops once located at this facade in terms of placement and basic design details and adjustment to the stairs to correspond to the altered conditions at the parlor floor level will not call undue attention to itself. That the pair of buildings is not part of a row with an established pattern of stoops or fenestrations. Therefore, the introduction of a new grouping of windows instead of a stoop door and window at the parlor level of the south building will not detract from the streetscape. That the proposed parlor floor window at the south building will match the configuration and details of the historic window at this floor and will therefore balance the facade composition while maintaining a differentiation between the two facades. That the proposed lowered areaway will be in keeping with areaways typically found at buildings of this age and style within the historic district, and the resulting exposed foundation wall will be repaired to blend in with the adjacent brickwork. That the new areaway railing featuring painted steel panels and picket and bronze handrail will recall the design of the original rail. That the new masonry opening and ironwork at the basement level will be in keeping with windows and doors typically found at areaways at buildings of this type, style, and age in the historic district. That the rear facade of the building were extended beyond their original plane after a series of additions in 1896 and 1926 and are not part of the larger role. Therefore, the removal of the existing facade will not eliminate any historic fabric and will bring the building closer to the historic massing. That the design, proportion, materiality of the proposed rear facade featuring full white brick on a steel frame and symmetrical composition of steel frame windows and door assemblies separated by a central brick pier will be keeping with those aspects of the other rear facades within the historic district and will reinforce a reading of the facade as two separate row houses. That the proposed rooftop addition will not be seen over the front facade from directly across the street and will only be visible over the side facade obliquely from the north, where the scale and massing of the addition will not overwhelm the building. That the use of gray metal cladding for the addition will be typical of rooftop additions found throughout the historic district. That the central green space in this block featuring a variety of grade levels and these buildings built in the former rear yard of the adjacent row house do not feature a typical lot depth or rear yard. Therefore, the proposed grade level of the rear yard and excavation to the rear lot line will not diminish a unified central green space. That the proposed excavation of the new cellar floor and demolition of the rear facade and interior party walls will be done in compliance with the Department of Building Regulations under the supervision of a licensed professional engineer to protect the building facade and the adjacent buildings. And the work will enhance the special architectural and historic character of the building in the historic district.
Thank you. Commissioner Chapin, would you second that motion?
Second.
Mark, will you call the vote?
Chair Carroll,
Aye.
Commissioner Chapin,
Aye.
Commissioner Chu,
Aye.
Commissioner Ginsburg,
Aye.
Commissioner Goldblum.
Aye.
Commissioner Jefferson,
Aye.
Commissioner Lutfi,
Aye.
Commissioner Master.
Aye.
With 8 in favor and none opposed, the motion passes.
It's approved. Thank you. And we'll move to our public hearing agenda.
Start with public hearing item number 1, LPC 25-04953, an application for a certificate of appropriateness in the Borough of Brooklyn, Block 944, Lot 13, 14 Sterling Place in the Park Slope Historic District Extension 2. This is a neo-Grec style flats building designed by Louis Bonert and built in 1889. The application is to construct a rooftop bulkhead and a rear yard addition.
Thank you. You see that? Okay. Can you hear me okay? So we are renovating this gorgeous 19th century brownstone in Park Slope. You can see it in the location plan. The rear yard donut is comprised of not very many rear yard additions that exist prior to designation. There are, I think, 13 total. Ours was a single story in the upper left. There are a couple 4-story additions, a couple 2-story additions, and the rest are single-story additions. One thing that's kind of unique about this block is that it does not maintain a straight street edge along the Sterling Place, which is somewhat unique and causes some high visibility for our bulkhead. Well, I don't know about high visibility. Historic photos and existing conditions. The rear yard addition is again a single story with a terrace on top. Our intention is to replace that with a 2-story addition that is about 3.5 feet shallower in its extension from the back facade. Some more photographs of the roof, some existing chimneys that were required to extend. You can see the neighboring building was restored, renovated. Demo plans. We're replacing the stair with a code compliant riser and run stair. which essentially sits in the existing location of the historic stair. But obviously has to get a little bit bigger on account of our current codes. We have shown the plans here. You can see the stair. And important to note is the rooftop. I think we have a bigger plan of that further in the presentation. Existing section. Proposed section. And then the existing and proposed. The bulkhead is set back from the street. We've drawn it. It's quite striking the way we've drawn it. It will have a very large skylight to bring light into the middle of the house. On the back facade, we have the two-story addition comprised of a cement, darkened Portland cement, stucco, and steel sash, thermally broken windows. There's a sample of the Portland cement and a plan of the roof deck showing the bulkhead setback from the cornice line. And a little more detail of the bulkhead from up on the roof. And then some views. It's not visible from directly across the street. Actually, it's not visible in any of these views. However, it is visible when we look on there's the sight line from across the street. You can see it's quite well concealed. But then when we start to look on the diagonal from further up the block, you can see how that street wall having a recess makes it more visible. So I don't know if there's a laser pointer here. But if you can imagine, this is our property here that we work with, and the setback. You can imagine the cornice line extending. We never see it, but because it doesn't, we do. There's the mock-up on the roof, upper right, and then some detailed photographs of the mock-up as it's visible from down the street. And then the one on the right is really zoomed in for clarity. And that's our presentation.
Great. And there's something behind your mock-up. Is that a chimney or?
Yes, there is an
Okay.
existing chimney that we need to.
What you're seeing behind there is.
You have to go up to the drawing.
building on Fifth Avenue.
That.
Yeah.
So that's the building across from that.
Okay,
think
so
that's
it's a larger
what
building.
you're gonna speak, you gotta stand up. Yeah, so what you're seeing beyond the mock-up of this bulkhead is on a different lot.
Okay. It's a building behind. All right, is there anyone, questions we have? Do we have any questions? Yes, Commissioner Jefferson? Did you have a question? Oh, okay. Commissioner Ginsburg.
I noticed that the slope of the stair bulkhead is shallower than the slope of the stair, which could you have reduced that a bit by making, is there a reason for that?
Yeah, let's go back to that section. What we were trying to achieve. So we were trying to achieve a bulkhead that matched the encasing walls of the stair, so that the volume of the stair would rise as volume all the way to the roof. So that's why we have the bulkhead as long as we do. And then the angle is really set for minimizing the top height to about 7 feet. And it's the resulting angle to achieve that volume.
Thank you.
So,
All right, yes, Commissioner Chapin.
the rear addition is going to be stucco.
Yes.
Just, if you could just indicate, are there other, this is common in this block on the, for rear yard additions to use stucco or?
Yes, it is. In fact, many of the brownstones here have been overclad with stucco as opposed to repointing. And ours has that, it's throw coating that was done in the 70s. So it's a fairly typical expression. We are not going to use drive it. This will be a traditional cement stucco.
So the houses on either side of you also have been stuccoed over?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
Thank you.
all right. Any other questions? Okay, we're going to move to public testimony and we'll come back to you. Is there anyone in the room who would like to speak on this item? And noting that there isn't, I will turn it over to Gregory Kala to see if we have any remote participants.
Thank you, Chair Carroll. We have one remote participant with their hand raised, that being Lucy Levine from the Historic Districts Council. Lucy Levine, I am promoting you to panelist. Please unmute your line and state your name for the record. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. Thank you.
Hi, Commissioners. My name is Lucy Levine. I'm speaking on behalf of the Historic Districts Council. HDC supports the proposed rooftop bulkhead, but finds the proposed portion of glass to masonry on the rear addition to be excessive. We ask the applicant to increase the masonry and reduce the glass. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. I do not see any additional hands raised, so I will note for the record that Brooklyn Community Board 6 recommends approval. And with that, I'll bring it back to you, Chair Carroll.
The comment about the glass, I appreciate the comment. We've tried to make the glass, we've tried to break down the glazing in a scale that seems appropriate given the size of windows above. But of course, we're making an addition to a townhouse, and townhouses can be challenged for light because they don't have side windows. So we would love to keep as much glazing as possible to make a bright, airy interior to this great house. And it's narrower than usual. Yeah.
Any final question?
The sidewalls on that new rear addition, they don't look like they quite line up with the edge of the windows above. Or on one side, they clearly don't. On the other side, it looks like it's a little thinner.
Let's see. We'll go to the plan. Yeah.
So on the front facade, as you would traditionally expect, the windows are centered on the building, but they're actually off center on the rear
Right,
facade. So
but
on
My
one side-
question is, on the left side, I don't know if, the pier seems narrower than the pier above. I realize on the right side, the pier is much bigger. The pier above is much bigger, but is that lineup, is it line up on the left side or not?
It does not line up on the left side. It's symmetrical on either side of the
Right.
addition, but not
Thank you.
lined up above.
All right, any other final questions? All right, let's close the hearing. Commissioner Chapin, would you make a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Thank you. Commissioner Lutfi, would you second that motion?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the hearing is closed. So there are two components to this application. One is to replace a one-story rear yard addition with a two-story rear yard addition, which projects less deep than the existing addition and steps further back at the second floor. And the second component is for a stair bulkhead, which is obliquely visible over the side facade. But what you see is the slope, and you see it against the backdrop of a building on Fifth Avenue that is also visible over the top of the row houses. Commissioner Master, would you like to start this?
Sure. I'll start with the bulkhead. I think that the bulkhead, I think they've tried to make it not visible. And as they've described, because of the different heights of the building, it seems like it's obliquely visible, but I think that's fine. In terms of the rear, they're proposing a two-story addition, which I think is relatively modest. And in fact, it's shallower than what was existing. So I can find that the scale and the massing is appropriate. I think there was a comment about the glass, that there was too much glazing. However, I think that we typically do allow glazing at this level, especially on the first 2 floors. So I can find this appropriate.
Okay, thank you. And I think that often when we do allow this much glazing, we look for it to be divided up to have some articulation, which the applicant has done in this case. Commissioner Jefferson? Okay. Commissioner Goldblum?
Me too.
Commissioner Ginsburg?
In general, I agree. I think the piers and on the side at the rear addition should be slightly wider so that the pier on the left lines up with above. It will still be symmetrical. I realize it won't line up with the pier on the right. But if all the other commissioners feel fine with it, I can support this.
Okay. Commissioner Chapin?
I think these are generally modest changes, and I can find it appropriate as presented.
Commissioner Lutfi?
Great. I think that they've done their best to make the bulkhead not very visible, and I think the rear changes are very consistent with what we normally approve.
Commissioner Chu?
I also agree. I think that for me, it was how intact this donut is that caused a little pause. But when I look at the existing condition, the applicant's addition on the rear is quite modest. And in fact, the addition would appear to be a 5-foot addition, if I understand the section correctly, and a reduction of the parlor level deck. So I don't think this is a big impact to the donut, and I think that it's appropriate.
Okay, thank you. All right, so I think we have enough to approve it as is. Commissioner Master, would you make the motion?
In the matter of LPC 25-04953, 14 Sterling Place, in the Park Slope Historic District Extension 2, a neo-Grec styles flats building designed by Louis Bonnert and built in 1889. I note that the building's style, scale, materials, and details are among the features that contribute to the special architectural and historic character of the Park Slope Historic District Extension 2. I recommend approval, finding that the proposed work will not damage or eliminate any significant architectural features, that the proposed rooftop bulkhead will not be visible directly over the front facade and will only be visible from the east along Sterling Place, that the design and materiality of the rooftop bulkhead, featuring a sloped roof with skylights and a gray stucco finish, will be in keeping with the character of utilitarian rooftop accretions found at other buildings throughout the historic district, that the proposed rear yard addition will not be visible from any public thoroughfare, that other rear yard additions with a similar height and depth exist within the block, and that the proposed 2-story rear yard addition with stepped back second story will be modest in scale and will not overwhelm the building, adjacent buildings, or the central green space. That the rear yard addition will not rise to the full height of the building, thereby preserving a sense of the building's original form and fenestration as part of a row. That the proposed materials and design of the rear yard addition, featuring stucco cladding and multi-light windows and doors, will be in keeping with the character of rear facades found within the block. And that the proposed work will not detract from the special architectural or historic character of the building or historic district.
Thank you. And Commissioner Jefferson, would you second that motion?
So moved.
All right, Mark, will you call the vote?
Chair Carroll,
Aye.
Commissioner Chapin,
Aye.
Commissioner Chu.
Aye.
Commissioner Ginsburg,
Aye.
Commissioner Goldblum.
Aye.
Commissioner Jefferson.
Aye.
Commissioner Lutfi. Commissioner Master.
Aye.
With 8 in favor, none opposed, the motion passes.
All right, that's approved.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you. We'll move to the next item.
Next item is public hearing item number 2, LPC 25-01044. An application for a certificate of appropriateness in the Borough of Queens, Block 154, Lot 19, 3969 45th Street in the Sunnyside Gardens Historic District. This is a colonial revival style row house designed by Clarence Stein and Henry Wright, built in 1926. The application is to legalize the installation of skylights without LPC permits.
Good morning, Commissioners. Leanne Pollock, Preservation Staff. This application is located at 3969 45th Street in Sunnyside Gardens, shown here in red. The owner is seeking to legalize skylights that were installed without LPC permits. They're in the process of completing a large scope of restorative work, including roof and window replacements that have all been previously approved at staff level. The 3 skylights were installed on the rear roof slope, which faces into one of the interior garden courts. The rear facade and roof are not visible from the public thoroughfare, and the skylights are only visible from within that interior court from the shared pathways, as seen in photo 3B in the lower right. This is a wider view through the alley at 46th Street, again, to show that the rear facade is not visible from the street. These 3 skylights were installed as part of an overall approved roof replacement that included replacing the slate roof in kind. The applicant has retained a selection of extra slate tiles on site for future repairs. Here are additional details for the skylights, which have a slim low profile similar to other skylight installations that the Commission has recently approved throughout Sunnyside Gardens. This is a close-up of the skylights, the 3 skylights at the rear roof slope as installed at the top. Skylights are a common feature throughout the historic district as shown in this map. The subject property again is shown in red. Skylights present at the time of designation are shown in pink, and skylight locations previously approved by the Commission are shown in blue. Here are some photos of some of the Commission-approved skylights as installed. Again, they're primarily at rear roof slopes and are either very minimally visible from the street or not visible from public thoroughfares. These slides show some skylights that were present at designation. This is a mix of skylights both at the front and rear roof slopes, and some of which are visible from the public street. But again, these are have been present since designation. Thank you. Now the building owner, Dominic Stiller, would like to say a few comments. Okay.
Hey, good morning. Thank you for your time. I just want to say the reason why we did this prior to approval, and we had a slate tile roof approval. We had masonry restoration approval. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Sorry about that. So we had certain interior and exterior approvals. We were working on this restoration, and I had contractor trouble in that I wouldn't get insurance from the contractor, and I decided with my staff. I'm the PE, the applicant, the owner. My wife and I are the owner, and I'm the also the permittee, the GC. I have a small GC company for things like this. So we decided with our main Spanish heritage tile worker, mason, we can do it ourselves. He was retiring about 8 months ago, and I just had to get it done. So we took the chance to do it ourselves. It's just 2 peaks like this. It looks great, in my opinion. The copper work looks great, and they're in. We do have extra tile in surplus if needed. We hope we don't need them, and we thank you for your consideration. Any questions?
Any questions, commissioners? All right, so you were doing the roof replacement with new slate, which is a nice thing, and you had problems with the contractor, and you sort of just took it over and did the skylights.
And the original slate was literally filled with asphalt tar. So there's no option of restoring the original.
Okay.
Thanks.
I'm still a little confused about the the issue of the skylights, which
Okay,
they weren't part of the original approval, obviously, or else.
we're not part of the original
Yeah,
approval.
What we decided strategically, and maybe wrong, was to wait on anything that needed a public hearing to the end. So it was just, so that played into the,
Okay.
timing played into the decision to take that chance. Why is it funny?
Commissioner Ginsburg.
You could have at least notified staff, which you didn't do, did you?
He did, when he applied originally, the full scope of all of the work, including the skylights, was included on there, and we reviewed it, noted that it was going to require a public hearing, and the skylights were removed from the drawing set, and only the roof work was filed. So we did have a preliminary conversation about the
So
skylight
before the
installation.
work started, one could have gone through the process. And
Yes.
you knew you were doing it. Thank you.
But just to also clarify, the commission has approved skylights on the rear roof slopes very often. So I think during that conversation, we said it's a public hearing process, but that the commission has approved these in similar locations in the past. So it's still discretionary, but there's a precedent for it.
Yeah. So, and I would just state that that's a risky thing to do, to just go ahead and do it and come to the public hearing afterward, because it is true that we have approved skylights in this historic district on these roofs. But, you know, there may have been a detail that we would have recommended differently, or maybe the size, or, you know, so it's always best to get the permit in advance so that you don't spend money twice trying to fix something, if it was something we can't find appropriate.
I was going to say, Sarah, is there a process to kind of expedite things? Let's say people are doing a roof and they're in the middle and they decide they want to put a skylight. Can we expedite then it coming to the, I know public hearings schedules are very crowded, but you know.
Yeah, well, we have to advertise our hearings 3 weeks in
Okay,
advance,
yeah,
and they
that's
need
the
to
issue, yeah.
appear at the community board in
yeah.
advance. So that's the thing that adds a certain, like, at least a month, if not longer, to get on the community
What we
board.
could do otherwise. Okay, thank you.
All right, so I'll note that there is no one to speak in the hearing room, so I will turn it over to Gregory Kala to see if we have any remote people present to testify.
Thank you, Chair Carroll. We have one remote participant with their hand raised, that being Lucy Levine from the Historic Districts Council. Lucy Levine, I've promoted you to panelist. Please unmute your line and state your name for the record. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. Thank you.
Commissioners, my name is Lucy Levine. I'm speaking on behalf of the Historic Districts Council. Given that we've seen several legalizations in Sunnyside recently, it appears to us that there needs to be greater community outreach about LPC permits in this district. HDC would love to assist the LPC in that outreach work. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. I do not see any additional hands raised, so I will note for the record that Queens Community Board 2 recommends approval, and I will bring it back to you, Chair Carroll.
Thank you. And I mean, I'll thank you, Lucy, for suggesting some outreach. We always look for opportunities to partner on that. In this case, it seems the owner was fully aware of the requirements. So, but, you know, we are always looking for opportunities to do outreach, and we can take a look at Sunnyside. Is there anything you'd like to say before we move to our discussion?
Yes, hi. It seems that the main hesitation may be about the fact that we install these things first. Would it be possible to just put up page 2? Oh, sorry, I thought that. But the commissioners were driving. So the photo in the bottom is the before and after of the rear existing porch. So that, you know, all got approval. The railings all got approval. So nothing else. The front facade, if I would go to the other page, you'd see the front facade restoration there at the lower left. It was a red painted building with vinyl windows. These new windows in the photos, the fence is still up, sorry, but new windows and new copperwork, all was done with approval. In the front, the masonry restoration at the front and the return on our right was done with approval.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. So I think we'll move to our discussion. Commissioner Master, would you make a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Thank you. Commissioner Chapin, would you second that motion? Commissioner Chu, would you second that motion?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the hearing is closed. And so we have had much discussion about this work happening without permits, and it is unfortunate that it happened without permits. I think that the rest of the work looks like it was very well done, and we're grateful that you're maintaining your house in such a high standard. And so we appreciate that. But I do want to just stress how important it is to get the permits first, because if it's work that we cannot approve or would not have approved in the first instance, you will have spent money and time on something that you'd have to redo. So in this case, as we do with all applications for legalization, we will look at the proposed work as if it were coming to us in the first instance and make a determination on appropriateness. And so we'll start our discussion. And as the applicant and staff have pointed out, we have approved skylights on the slate roofs in this historic district, particularly facing the back into the courtyards. And these skylights are consistent with those in terms of size and their placement on the roof. And in fact, I think we've recently had a discussion about how this type of work should be something that we should be able to do at staff level in the future. So as we think about amending our rules to streamline the process, this is a work type that we'll be adding to that proposal. Commissioner Jefferson, would you like to start with this one?
After this presentation, I think in this particular case, I can approve this. I think it's unfortunate, but I can approve it.
Thank you. Commissioner Goldblum.
I agree. I think it's the kind of thing we would have approved at the outset.
Commissioner Ginsburg.
So I agree, this is approvable if it had come to us originally. I am troubled by the willful disregard of our rules. If you were told you got to go to the commission for the skylights, you could have gotten everything else approved and applied for the skylights at the same time and moved it ahead. But in doing it this way, you consciously decided to break the rules, and that I do find troubling.
Commissioner Chapin.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised the applicant is a professional engineer and a community activist. So I thought, gee, what happened here? Because as you pointed out, Sarah, it causes people to spend additional money, time, and unfortunately, the other thing it does is maybe encourage others to do things like this, who may not be very well qualified to conduct the work, and you end up with problems. So that's why we really try to get people to get everything approved. And obviously, this applicant did get everything else approved, and it did a nice job and so forth. So is this something we would have approved if it came to us? Yes. And we even, as we discussed, are trying to get staff to be able to approve it so that a phone call could be made while you're in the middle of work, and you could if there had not been an earlier decision to put the skylights in. Skylights here in this district are really quite appropriate and needed in many cases. You know, they have these small family houses and they really need some light in certain areas sometimes. So, you know, I certainly will approve it, but I hope our applicant will, not only himself, but urge others to get the stuff included originally so we don't have this kind of issue in the future.
Right, thank you. Commissioner Lutfi.
I agree. That it seems as though the applicant has done a good job in terms of the placement and installation of the skylights. We have approved it before. The slate roof work is very good, but I do have to just layer on. The applicant certainly knows better. The applicant is a professional and has been through this before. There's really no excuse. And I also want to say on our behalf, I've been on the commission for a little while, not as long as some other people, but I have been pretty impressed with how quickly we get things on the docket and how quickly we move things through and to bring people back when they have to. And that is something that also, I think if your headset is in a different place, it's important for you to reconsider how you're viewing the whole process here at Landmarks. That's it.
Commissioner Chu.
I'm not going to add further to that, but I'm in complete agreement with the commissioner's statements. But yes, what's in front of us, I think, is approvable.
Commissioner Master.
I agree with all the comments of my other fellow commissioners.
All right, so I think we're in agreement that we can move to approve this today. So Commissioner Jefferson, would you read the motion?
In the matter of LPC -25 -01044, 3969 45th Street, Sunnyside Garden Historic District. Applications to legalize the installation of a skylight without Landmark Preservation Commission permit. I note that the building style, scale, material, and details and settings are among the features that contribute to the special architectural and historical character of the Sunnyside Garden Historic District. I also note that the skylights were installed in conjunction with replacing the historic slate shingle roof in kind with new slate shingles. I recommend approval, finding that the installation of the skylight resulted in the removal of only a limited area of slate shingles, and selected shingles were retained and stored on site for future repairs, that the skylights are on a slope of the roof facing the court and not visible from any public thoroughfare, that the low-profile installation preserves the silhouette of the roof and its relationship to other houses in the court. And there are other skylights installed in pitch roof in this historic district. And this work reflects the adaptive reuse of the attic space of the very small houses over time. And that the work does not detract from the special architectural and historical character of the building or historic district.
So,
Thank you, Commissioner Goldblum. Would you second that motion?
Second.
John, will you call the vote?
Chair Carroll.
Aye.
Commissioner Chapin.
Aye.
Commissioner Chu.
Aye.
Commissioner Ginsburg.
Aye.
Commissioner Goldblum.
Aye.
Commissioner Jefferson.
Aye.
Commissioner Lutfi. Commissioner Master.
Aye.
8 in favor, none opposed. The motion passes.
So that's approved. Thank you. And we'll move to the next public hearing item.
The next item is public hearing item number 3, LPC 25-04620, an application for a certificate of appropriateness in the Borough of Manhattan, Block 621, Lot 52, 66 Perry Street in the Greenwich Village Historic District. This is a late Italianate style row house designed by Robert Mook and built in 1866. The application is to install a stoop gate.
All right, good morning, Commissioners. Michelle Craren, Preservation Staff. This application is for work at 66 Perry Street. This house is located on the south side of Perry Street between West 4th Street and Bleecker Street, and the application before you today is to install a gate at the stoop. In this slide, you can see the locations of some other stoop gates that were previously approved by the commission, and which I'll show you a little bit later in the presentation. Here you can see the house in the 1940s tax photo. It's the one second from the left that still retains its details at that time. And on the left here is the house in 1978 when the current owners purchased it. As you can see, the stoop had been removed by this time. On the right is a more recent view of the house showing the restored stoop and ironwork, which was undertaken after commission approval in 1983. Here are some context photos of the block showing varied conditions, which includes various townhouses and apartment buildings with different types of stoops. And here's the owner's proposed design for the gate, which will match the details, materials, and finish of the existing railings at the stoop and at the areaway fence. And some additional close-up views of the existing conditions at the house. showing the existing railings and fence. And then lastly, here are some examples of prior commission approvals nearby, including 17 Grove Street, 133 West 4th Street, 168 Waverly Place, and finally 79 Christopher Street. The owner and her architect are also here to speak further on the proposal. Come up to the mic. Anything you wanted to add?
Madam Chairman and Commissioners. I had remarks. My name is Barbara Lorber. I'm the owner of 66 Perry Street, have been since November 8 of 1978. I think that Michelle managed to cover all of it in about 3.5 minutes without stopping for breath. I assume that if any of you looked at your phones, the newspaper, the television, anywhere today, you understand the extent of the endless presence of interest in my celebrity staircase. I've postponed what I guess is the inevitable. I do, obviously, to do that kind of restoration. I love what it was. And that house shouldn't be gated, excuse me. But what was beautiful in the late 19th century is unfortunately in need of more protection in our century, in our time. I'd hoped for literally decades that this would pass, but at this point, I think even someone as stubborn as I am has to admit that this isn't going away in the near future. So I wanted to do something that would add to the beauty of the front, not just look like a barrier that says, this belongs to people, this is home to 3 families. Take all the pictures you wish standing on the street, but please don't climb into our space and into our windows. I know the word anachronism, but I'm afraid what was anachronistic in the 19th century may be pretty much necessary in our century. Thank you so much for your time. I'd like to let Izzy tell you the really important good stuff.
Thank you. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi, my name's Izzy Cruz. I'm the architect of the gate design. As Barbara has just pointed out to you, the gate has become a necessary facet of her home, and I was more than happy to help her with this. I think that, as she has pointed out, the anachronistic quality of a gate is something that might have to be set aside for a moment until we consider how the world has changed in the years that the home went up. Kinder, gentler time, which is not where we are now. But if you have any questions regarding that same subject, I am open to questions.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you. Commissioners, do we have any questions on this application? Yes, Commissioner Master.
Yes, can you speak a little bit to why you designed the gate the way you did?
So let's say we start with the arch design, which echoes the pediment and the segmented arched windows. Wanted to keep that as an echo coming off the front door. So as you stand in front of the building or even across the street, there's the repeating pattern of curves between gate, window, and pediment all have a certain cohesiveness overall. And so it reflects the design intent from the ground up so that nothing stands out. Okay. And in this case, using the original panels actually helps in that design. Yeah.
Okay, any other questions? All right, we're going to move to public testimony and we'll come back to you after that. All right, is there anyone in the room who would like to speak on this item? Noting that there isn't, I will turn it over to Gregory Kalla to see if we have any remote participants.
Thank you, Chair Carroll. We have a few remote participants with their hands raised. The first we'll be hearing from is Dina Tass-Winter from Village Preservation. Dina Tass-Winter, I am promoting you to panelist right now. Please unmute your line and state your name for the record. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Dina Tass-Winter, and I'm speaking today on behalf of Village Preservation. Village Preservation is sympathetic to the need for a stoop gate at this particular location, which has become a tourist destination due to it being featured on a popular television show. We support this application, and we find the proposed gate design to be harmonious with the existing ironwork. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Next up, we'll be hearing from Christina Conroy from Victorian Society of New York. Christina Conroy, I have promoted you to panelist. Please unmute your line and state your name for the record. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Christina Conroy for the Victorian Society, New York. Now, we consider a stoop to be a semi-private area of someone's home, a place for people not only to enter and leave the house, but also a place for community building and connecting with neighbors. Typically, we have opposed gates on stoops, similar to the one proposed here, as they betray the semi-public nature of these stoops. In the case of 66 Perry Street, though, we are willing to make an exception. As the owner points out, the extraordinary fame of Sex and the City and the Carrie Bradshaw character has turned this townhouse, and more specifically the stoop, into an entertainment landmark, and it has completely obliterated any sense of its privacy. We would wager that I'm speaking right now, there are probably people standing outside taking pictures. While we typically do not approve of stoop gates, we would prefer this attractive gate that complements the existing ironwork over the apparently ineffectual chain that crosses a stairway. And while this gate may also prove to be ineffective, especially if it's kept unlocked, it's an attractive alternative that is ultimately reversible, and we're willing to support it. Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Next up, we'll be hearing from AJ Parker. AJ Parker, I'm promoting you to panelist right now. Please unmute your line and state your name for the record. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. Thank you.
Hello, my name is AJ Parker. I live at 55 Perry Street. I only found out about this hearing last night. I actually emailed some testimony to the email address. I live across the street, and every single day, the number of tourists is impossible. It is dangerous. It is trash everywhere. It is people blocking entryways of the apartment buildings across the street. I fully support Barbara's application, and I want you to know that, in fact, you should actually fully support her to do anything to change this stoop and change it so that this is no longer such an issue for all of the residents on Perry Street. I am actually a disabled veteran. I'm also at NYU pre-law, and I speak to the other neighbors on the street as well because I'm a licensed real estate agent. This is one of the most egregious situations when it comes to personal property being attacked all day, every day. People climb all of the stoops on the street. They will climb over her chain that is there. They will go up to the top. I have yelled at people. I have spoken to people. I have been nice with people. I have been threatened. People have threatened to punch me in the face. They feel so entitled to this piece of private property that I don't think it's actually coming across how severe the situation is. So please give your full support to Barbara for her application.
Thank you so much for your testimony. I do not see any additional hands raised, so I will note for the record that Manhattan Community Board 2 recommends approval. And with that, I'll bring it back to you, Chair Carroll.
All right, thank you very much. So the testimony was supportive. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we move to our discussion?
It's nice to know the village is still good.
All right, thank you. So we'll move to our discussion now. Commissioner Jefferson, would you make a motion to close the hearing?
So move.
Thank you. Commissioner Goldblum, would you second that motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the hearing is closed, and it is unfortunate that we live in a time where we have to be so protective on our stoops, and I understand that there's been damage done to the house, and that is, of course, a concern as well as your privacy and your safety. When we evaluate gates on stoops, we consider several factors. One is whether or not the building is part of a row with consistent stoops that are all aligned, or whether it's a one-off building, and what the character of the rest of the streetscape is. And in cases where the building is not part of a consistent row with consistent stoops, when the block has a lot of variety of building types and building and areaway conditions, and if it's near a commercial thoroughfare, we have approved gates at the base of stoops before. So we'll be looking at this application in the context of those considerations, those factors, and we'll make a determination on appropriateness. Commissioner Lutfi, would you like to start this one?
It's really very upsetting. And there have been, we've actually received a lot of application for fences in the village for a variety of reasons. Yours, is egregious in the sense that, as we've heard, you have no privacy, people don't respect your property. They see this as a tourist attraction that they are entitled to, just attach themselves to in a way that is not positive for your safety, your lifestyle, and the building itself. And by the way, you can see from the photos that you have taken very good care of your home. And I completely appreciate the fact that even though it's been adverse for you, that you waited so long to try, out of respect for what the intent is at not having a gate in a community like this one and other brownstone communities in the city. The fence design that you have on the railings and on the fence in your area, at the front of your areaway, is quite attractive and really is a wonderful addition to your house. And I appreciate what your architect is trying to accomplish here, and I think that it does a very good job of tying in with what exists. Now, if it was my home, I might not have the arch, but I am perfectly happy to as is, because I don't think it detracts. And I feel like not, it's not too high, given the situation.
Yeah, I think that, and I'd like to thank the applicant for their presentation. It is a very simple, straightforward request, but I think it's a very particular situation and a very unique challenge that you're dealing with. I think that having the gate here, we have approved these gates in the past. I think this is an appropriate and a valid request for one. My only comment is really more about the detailing, and I would like the applicant to work with the staff a little on the actual details. I think the applicant very well understands that this is not the original intent of the design of the stoop to put a gate, that's something that even expressed. She expressed that. I think that the arch expression maybe brings too much attention to it, and in fact celebrates something that really wasn't originally even there. So I tend to prefer more minimal approach to that gateway design, and maybe even just take that arch off, flatten it at the top of the newels. But I do also want them to look at the detail of the anchoring of the hinge on the side, because it's quite a beautiful newel. This one is really unique, and it's porous. It's very open. So how that gets attached should be studied carefully, and don't attach it to the newel if you don't have to along the handrail. I think that confuses it. Yeah, I think it because that existing house has such a consistent detailing of the stair and the railing on the street sidewalk, which we don't always see. I tend to feel like I would accept this design to keep the consistency, but I do think it needs to be minimized.
Commissioner Master?
Yeah, I think we heard very compelling testimony as to the necessity of this gate. And it's a shame that it's come to that, and that the residents are suffering the way they are. Initially, I had wondered about the arch on the gate, but then the architect had said that he was trying to recall the arches in the window. And to me, that's compelling. I understand that he's trying to create something here that's beautiful. So I am fine with the arch as is. I'm also fine with the height, which is a little bit higher than we typically might approve, but I understand that security is a big factor here. I agree with Commissioner Chu that some of the details should definitely be, refined with staff, but I can approve it as is.
Commissioner Jefferson?
I think the applicant should work with the staff to come up with an architectural language or a gate language that works with the road, as we discussed. And the staff should help them decide which is the best way to do or design this gate.
Okay. Commissioner Goldblum?
Thank you. I agree with Stephen in terms of the detailing, that it probably should be a little bit more minimized. Sorry. I agree with Stephen that I think the design should be simplified a little bit, and that the attention should be paid with staff about placement of the hinges and all that. What strikes me about this is that, we all have different windows onto what's happening in the world, and whether it's at the top of a stoop or sitting at this table, we're seeing something here. And this is this week's stoop gate. Last week it was people who were suffering from criminals or drug addicts or whatever populating their stoops. It's terribly sad that we seem to be in this period of time when these are going to become more frequent, perhaps, and we're being presented week after week with compelling reasons why what we thought was the civil order of our city is no longer the case. It kind of reminds me of roll down metal gates in front of storefronts. They were necessary, and then they weren't. And we were able to kind of follow that with regulations that celebrated that lack of necessity. But it seems like, at least as stoops go, we're moving back there. And, where I was thinking of this, the infirmary down, which is close, in the Greenwich Village, where one of the features that we preserved was the boot scrapes, and that is redolent of a time when boot scrapes were necessary. And maybe this is a time when stoop gates are necessary, much as we dislike that. And to that end, I think that it seems if these historic preservation driven approvals are led by need and are governed by certain standards, this might be a place where the staff should start to develop rules about the approval of this kind of thing at a staff level. That kind of need not be determined by us, and the style issues that Stephen and others were talking about, and that the applicants showed, can form the basis for a rules-based approval regime that would allow folks to address this need without making it into a production, and that would expedite it for them. It sucks, but it seems like this is where we are.
Yeah, thank you. Commissioner Ginsburg.
I agree with most of the comments. I appreciate the problem and support the solution as necessary, as Commissioner Goldblum said, given the world today or tourism today. I agree with Commissioner Chu that the gate should probably not be arched and be simplified. So working with staff, I hope that could be resolved. But I think given the situation, the gate is totally appropriate.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Chapin.
Yeah, well, I think this is a unique situation which definitely warrants, some kind of further measures. And I think it's appropriately designed as far as the general approach, clearly. And they could certainly work on any further detailing with the staff. But I just hope that it provides the applicant with some relief because, people, as I learned in the Parks Department, people will climb over almost anything. But, hopefully it will, be a clearer, signal that this is just not appropriate in a private residence. But I hope it helps the applicant too.
Okay, all right. Yes.
In all of the instances where these requests have come before us, the applicants have at first attempted to put up these chain fences. In this case, it also has signs. Not only are they ineffective, they're unattractive. And they, in my opinion, degrade, the essence of what these homes are about. And I think if we're going to look at that, if we're going to look at this more holistically, and I hope that we do, that it would be good to reconsider that first step, because it seems like almost a waste.
Yeah. I think, in the past, when we would see applications for gates, we would often encourage people to try a chain, but we are seeing now more and more applicants coming back to us saying the chain isn't working. Okay, so, and I do think that in this particular streetscape, there is enough variety in the building types to allow for a one-off installation of a gate. And, but I do hear comments about thinking about it more generally, and we are continuing to see more applications. So the staff will do that as well. With respect to the arch, I think we're sort of like split evenly on that. So perhaps what we do is we just make a motion to approve and ask that they simplify and work with the staff on the details. And we'll see sort of how the arch works out once there's a kind of an approach to simplifying the gate.
I'm actually fine with the arch.
Right, I had you as fine with it. So it won't necessarily be eliminate the arch, it'll be to simplify it, which may be eliminating the arch or maybe something else where, and then the arch doesn't seem to call as much attention to itself. So to just work with the staff to to simplify the gate and work on the details. Great, thank you.
Turn that on. In the matter of docket 25-04-620-66 Perry Street, Greenwich Village Historic District, delayed Italianate style row house designed by Robert Mook and built in 1866. The application is to install a stoop gate. I note that the building style, scale, materials, and details are among the features that contribute to the special architectural and historic character of the Greenwich Village Historic District. I recommend approval, finding that the historic stoop and ironwork were removed prior to designation and subsequently restored. Therefore, the attachment of a new gate will not impact any historic fabric. That the building's use in a well-known television program has led to frequent trespassing and safety concerns. That this streetscape features a variety of areaway and entrance conditions, including other gates and fences. Therefore, the presence of a stoop gate will not diminish the relationship of this building to other buildings on the block or the relationship of the stoop to the sidewalk. That the design details of the black finished metal gate will harmonize with the historic ironwork at the building, and that the proposed work will not detract with the special historic and architectural character of the building or the Greenwich Village Historic District. I do recommend that the applicant work with staff to simplify the design of the gate and also work with staff on the details surrounding that.
Great, thank you. And Commissioner Chapin, would you second that motion?
Second.
Chair Carroll,
Aye.
Commissioner Chapin,
Aye.
Commissioner Chu,
Aye.
Commissioner Ginsburg,
Aye.
Commissioner Goldblum,
Aye.
Commissioner Jefferson, Commissioner Lutfi,
Aye.
Commissioner Master.
Aye.
8 in favor, none opposed, the motion passes.
That's approved. Thank you and good luck. And we'll move to the next public hearing item.
Next item is public hearing item number 4, LPC 25-03554. This is an application for an amendment. It's in the Borough of Manhattan, Block 575, Lot 37, 34 West 12th Street in the Greenwich Village Historic District. This is a late Italianate style row house built in 1860 and altered by the 1940s. The application is to legalize alterations to and reconstruction of the rear facade and non-compliance with Certificate of Appropriateness 23-01170.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Stephen Conti, Principal of Studio SC Architecture.
Hello, my name is Olivia Taro, designer at Studio SC.
So this application was previously approved and construction has been completed. Yes. Okay, so this is the restored front facade. We're here, just to clarify, we're here to talk about the rear facade, but I wanted to just quickly go through the front restoration, which took quite a bit of effort. You can see on the left, that was the original, and we completely restored the Italianate facade to match with the row homes. Got DOT approval for to put the stoop back, and worked with Landmark staff to make sure all the details were done correctly. Okay, now to the rear facade. On the left was the existing. This building had kind of been a hodgepodge of different owners over time. When we first visited the site, it was broken up into 9 different units, some with mezzanines added. There were like makeshift 2x6 wood joists that somebody had put in the 70s to create a loft. They had built an L-shaped extension that you can see protruding off the back. Also this glass cube, and cut a hole down to the cellar. And oh, should I go back to the front really quick for the commissioner? No, okay. So essentially a lot of work had to be done, and the original, the new, you can see the completed on the right side. This was kind of the existing in comparison. This is what was proposed, and what was finished was close, but there were some misalignments due to some structural issues that were found during the process. So I'll go back to what was, approved just in terms of alignment. And then at the top, there's about a 9 to 11 or 12 inch. It's hard to say because we can't dangle over the roof at that point. But we essentially had a lot of some structural issues came up, and parts of the rear wall had to be rebuilt from the interior. And what the engineer and the contractor essentially assured us is that they will make all the repairs from the interior. Any part that would affect the exterior, they would use the existing brick from the openings, which they did. I guess the issue is when the scaffolding came off and all was said and done, and we went to have our final look, there were some misalignments in the tops of the windows by a few inches and the top cornice. Again, we don't know the exact measurement because we couldn't dangle off of the top railing up here because it is set back. So here's some photos. We kind of bubbled where the misalignments happened. This is showing the row of the rear facades in the back. We have quite an eclectic mix too. We have so one over, we have an extension with a red brick and then this very modern glass facade. Past that one, we have kind of these very large punched openings that are flat with this pinkish material that we can't really make out. And then another white, again, I'm not sure if it's painted brick, in the back row. Across from the back, there's also quite an eclectic mix of ins and outs, just kind of shaping the inner block court, if you will. So essentially, this is the finished building, and you can see kind of the very slight misalignment at the top of us being slightly taller on here, and then towards the top, some of the lintels did not align correctly. Again, we were not in charge of the construction, we were the architects. It's just when the scaffolding came off, this is what was left. So that's really, yeah, that's the extent of the rear yard, the rear facade, yeah.
Thank you. Any questions, commissioners? Yes, Commissioner Goldblum.
So you said, I'm sorry, I wasn't here from the very beginning, but you said that you weren't in charge of the construction, you were just the architect.
Well, yeah, so when the scaffolding was up and our plan, our original was this, we weren't inspecting every lintel to make sure it was aligned. It was, under the assumption that the contractor would align the lintels.
And you didn't notice that it was off until the scaffolding had to come down.
Correct, yeah.
Were you there during the construction to look at it at all?
Yes, but not up on the scaffolding, just more from the inside. From the backyard, it was completely covered in scaffolding.
Right.
And again, very difficult because if you look at the photos, it's even uncovered. Let me see if we have it. Imagine this covered in scaffolding and safety netting.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to tell.
And the buildings that are to the left, they vary in terms of their facade treatment, but the cornice all lines up.
I believe so. There are some protrusions. It's hard to say because they're private yards to get in, but we did notice some protrusions
At the cornice level, at the top of the building?
on I believe it's 3 or 4 over. There's a black box that sticks out.
Okay.
And that's what we're pointing out, but it's hard to say, you know, we're
Got
not able
it.
to get into.
And
the
is your railing is set back?
Our
right?
railing is set back, correct?
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. That's good. Thanks.
All right. Other questions? Commissioner Chapin.
It's sort of a, maybe it's already been answered, but the building adjacent obviously is misaligned. I mean, you're misaligned with it now. Does the row continue or not?
Misaligned, you mean in height or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In other words, does that, are there other buildings?
That's what's hard to tell, because we see, again, there's a very beautiful, massive tree. Even with the leaves off, this is kind of late fall. We took these photos recently. You can see on the right side that the row continues. So they're all in plane. They're all aligned, including our building in
plane,
terms of
yes.
plane. They're all aligned.
But I was looking for the.
At the top,
height,
it's
the
hard to
building
tell.
height, yeah.
It's hard to tell. We know that the immediate one is slightly lower by a few
Yes.
inches. The next one looks to align, but then after that, more than 2 over, it's hard to see from our yard, the perspective. And that's why we went to the roof and took, past that photo, this photo, and we see, I don't know if we can zoom in on this, but right here,
Mhm.
there's which is, I believe, 3 over. This piece seems to bump up and is coming further than the recessed railings. Not sure what that is, but yeah, we're not able to get access to that yard.
Okay, thank you.
And in terms of the context, it looks like there's an apartment building across from the building that you're pointing to with the black
Yes,
parapet.
there is.
And is the block otherwise open, or are there a variety of building heights and depths
A
within the block?
complete variety of building depths and heights.
Okay,
And we did, the landmark staff who came with us on site kind of pointed this out and said, you know, this might be important to show.
And so those 2 apartment buildings, is that directly behind you?
Those are directly behind us, yes.
Okay. And then the photo on the left is
It's kind of off to the side, looking to the side of
on
this.
your side of the block?
Yes,
But further over. Okay, and then the picture on the right is what's behind you.
but directly behind us. There's a very tall, apartment building directly.
Got
behind
it.
us.
So it's a very shallow rear yard there. Commissioner Ginsburg.
How hard would it be to lower the cornice to a line up, but not the wall behind it?
I think the cornice would have to be shaved, not lowered, or potentially it could be lowered, but it's kind of aligning with the top of the finished roof. So we have the insulated roof, the roofing finish, the membrane, and then the cornice kind of aligns with that and the railing is recessed back. So if the cornice drops, there may be kind of this exposed a few inches that would seep into the insulation, and we might have to create some sort of aluminum box that may be more out of context. But again, that's.
The problem may have been the key of why the cornice doesn't line up. You would add an insulation to the roof and the cornice line with the roof and not where it is.
Well, it should have been, from our drawings, the insulation should have lined up and finished. But I think when when everything was happening on site, we were not there on a weekly basis. We would do our kind of monthly, like once a month, once every 6 weeks, go to site. And with all the scaffolding and everything happening.
At the end of the day, who's responsible for this if the architect is not responsible?
I mean, technically, at the end of the day, the owner is responsible for the work that's happening at their property. But I think that it does discourage us when we see projects where there's an architect and the architect hasn't overseen every aspect of it, but it is also common that happens.
I have a
Yeah,
question.
Commissioner Chu.
The original approved application how much of the existing rear facade was retained? Because
It
that
was,
sounds like it was rebuilt in this actual.
there were
as-built.
portions of it rebuilt. In terms of percentage, it could be around 40% rebuilt.
Oh, it was a painted brick previously.
It was painted brick previously, yeah.
And so now it's unpainted brick. So,
Yes.
so was the paint removed or was the entire
The
thing?
paint was, yeah, clean, as they did some patch repairs from the inside, and then part of the original approval was increasing the window heights. Also adding kind of this larger opening for these windows, which were also approved as is. So using some of that same brick to make the spot repairs.
Okay, I mean, I'm looking at the approved drawing. Okay, yeah, I see that you were gonna you're gonna lower the second floor windows from the existing and the third floor, but the upper floor would have stayed existing, which is something we typically ask our
Yeah.
applicants to retain.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a bit shocked just how this could happen. And if you had an existing facade, you mark where the opening is. If you rebuild it, you don't lose track of anything. It's a brick facade. You can count bricks. The neighboring facade is literally right there. I could just move my line right over and find the alignment. I would look at the architect's drawings to indicate those specific notes to retain existing opening, align with the neighboring lot. These are all the things that went into your approval of the application. So to lose those things, I just find egregious. I don't know how we control anything.
Yeah. Commissioner Ginsburg.
I had two questions. Why isn't the owner here today?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
And the second thing, would you normally only go to a site every 4 to 6 weeks during construction, or was this something the owner cut back on or so on?
No, it is fairly common unless we're in contract for full construction, supervision, then, our time is really accounted for in that sense, but we saw the way things were shaping up with the front. We saw the way the structure was being done. The contractor, I think overall they did a good job, but something blanked here. They messed up here on a few inches alignment, and it's a big deal. But it's not, I don't even think we would be able to notice that from the inside, even if we were on site. Yeah.
As an architect, we're typically there at least every 2 weeks. So 4 to 6 weeks is on the lean side, but thank you.
I just want to clarify too, because I think it's been stated a couple of times that this is off only because of alignments, but the legalization request is for reconstruction of the facade, and that in itself wasn't done to match the historic condition. So there was no LPC approval to reconstruct the facade, but as you can see, it was reconstructed. So that's part of what's being reviewed here today.
And that obviously known at some point during construction that term, that was a change. So.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, let's move to public testimony. Is there anyone in the room who wishes to speak on this item? Noting that there isn't, I'm going to turn it over to Gregory Kala to see if we have any remote participants.
Thank you, Chair Carroll. We have one remote participant with their hand raised, that being Dina Tass-Winter from Village Preservation. Dina Tass-Winter, I am promoting you to panelist. Please unmute your line and state your name for the record. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Dina Tass-Winter, speaking on behalf of Village Preservation. Village Preservation does not support the legalization of this rear facade reconstruction. The certificate of appropriateness stipulated that, quote, the size and placement of the fenestration at the top floor of the rear facade be retained, end quote. And so we urge the Commission to require that the windows be realigned to conform to this condition of the approval. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. I do not see any additional hands raised, so I will note for the record that Manhattan Community Board 2 recommends approval. And with that, I'll bring it back to you, Chair Carroll.
Okay. Would you like to respond to the comments?
No, I think we've kind of gave the scope of the history and what's, at play here. So thank you very much, though.
All right, thank you. Any final questions, commissioners? All right, let's move to our discussion then. Commissioner Master, would you make a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Thank you. Commissioner Jefferson, would you second that motion?
The second,
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so this is a situation where we approved a significant amount of work on the front and the rear. The front restoration appears to have been done very nicely. And at the rear, it seems that there was a change in scope or an expansion in the scope of work, which included reconstruction of the rear facade, which resulted in different levels for the top floor windows and the cornice height. And we've had some discussion about the adjacent buildings, which have different treatments. So it isn't a uniform row where the entire row retains their fenestration. But it does seem like at least the buildings that you can see immediately to the left do retain the cornice height. So we'll begin our discussion. Commissioner Goldblum, would you like
Okay,
to start?
Thanks. Sure. When Stephen was asking his questions, I was thinking the same thing. This is the architect's job. I certainly see it as my job when I get hired. Maybe his contracts are different. God bless him. But I mean, if I'm presenting to the commission and saying I'm going to align something, then I better make sure that my construction drawings show that, and don't call out a dimension, but show an alignment, verify in field. I mean, we're in the weeds here, but this is how it gets done. And that's why the LPC staff has to approve the final CDs. I mean, it's not okay to never go up on the scaffold and check an alignment when alignment is what you owe the city. It's just like saying, I didn't check the fireproofing till the sheetrock was up and now I can't see it anymore, but you're required. It's not okay. And, the commission can't mandate a level of construction administration on the part of architects on these projects, but it mandates a result. And to state that you couldn't tell that the windows and the cornice were dramatically misaligned until the job was done. It's like, I'm not gonna, I'm gonna throw the materials in a basket, shake them up and see what comes out. And if it comes out good, it's a win. If not, sorry, I'll come back and ask for forgiveness. And that goes also for the notion of the complete wholesale reconstruction of the rear facade versus the retention and modification of the existing rear facade. That's a major cardinal sin in our book. In my book, we're about preserving historic material. Here, the bricks were resalvaged and reused, which is nice, but that's always a distant second place to maintaining the original construction. And I think that that's just not okay. Now, as to, after the sermon, what do you do? I think what should be done is that the cornice should be brought down and the staff should work with the applicant on how to clad the remaining visible vertical portion of the roof materials that become therefore exposed. With the preference that any materials that are therefore exposed should be set back to the absolute maximum point that would comply with other codes, number one. Number two, the top floor windows should be lowered so that they align with the other windows in the row. Of the variety shown of the buildings on this row, the top floor windows generally are the thing we hold on to create a level of consistency and to tie together and show historic material on facades that vary. That should be redone. And I would say that the staff should look at when the staff looks at CDs where alignments are critical, if they don't do this already, they should make sure and mark up that alignments are what create alignments, not dimensions. And it should be called out As such, when they do a review of CDs, if they see a situation like this where they just dimension it and it looks like it aligns, that's not okay. Because then it becomes the contractor's responsibility to provide the alignment that was part of the construction documents package.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Ginsburg.
So I agree with Commissioner Goldblum. I am also, if the client came with their tail between their legs and was apologetic, I might feel differently. Given the quality and expense of the restoration, architects observe construction. You're not you're telling the contractor what to do in one sense, but not means and methods. But clearly, you should have been there more frequently and observing this more. The front was done really well from all I can tell, and the ball got dropped, and you are partially responsible. In the end, the owner is totally responsible. The fact that they didn't owe us the respect of coming here and saying, oops, we goofed, I'm really sorry, is a strike against them. And I agree with Commissioner Goldblum on the remedies.
Commissioner Chapin.
Yeah, I have to agree with my colleagues on this, that, I'll just say I agree with my colleagues.
All right. Commissioner Lutfi.
Say that I agree. Colleagues, I also have it.
Commissioner Chu.
Yeah, I would agree with all my fellow commissioners' comments. I think that if have we approved facades like this? Yes, we have. But to me, the issue with this is the precedent it sets for not taking responsibility for a design intent that was approved. And I think that's the bigger issue. So I support Michael's proposal to have the applicant revise what was built, to bring the cornice down and revise the openings, masonry openings for the upper floor. Those are actually written in the approval too, as the alignments that were approved.
All right, Commissioner Master.
I also support Commissioner Goldblum's statements, and I think that, I think that's going to be necessary for the applicant to do in order to get this approval.
Commissioner Jefferson.
Agree with my fellow commissioners.
Okay. All right, so I think what we need to do is we need to take a motion to approve the reconstruction with the condition and the modification that they correct the windows, lower the height and placement of the windows, and then lower the cornice and set back to the extent possible any remaining roofing, and work with the staff on cladding that material.
Regarding 34 West 12th Street in the Greenwich Village Historic District, the application is to legalize alterations and reconstruction of the rear facade in noncompliance with C of A 23-01170. I note that the building style, scale, materials, details, and siding are among the features that contribute to the special architectural and historic character of the Greenwich Village Historic District. I recommend approval with modifications, finding that the rear facade has been heavily coated and included in later rear yard extensions, that the work did not damage or eliminate any significant architectural features, that the rear facade is not visible from any public thoroughfare, and that other houses in the row feature highly modified window openings and claddings. Therefore, the modification to the rear facade did not disrupt an intact pattern of rear facades. That although the locations of the windows shifted upward, the general size and spacing of the windows maintains a typical solid to void ratio and recalls historic fenestration patterns, and that the reconstructed rear facade utilized partially salvaged uncoated brick, thereby preserving some of the historic material. However, I find that the applicant should work with staff on making the following changes to the built project. Number one, the top floor windows should be lowered. Their headers and sills should be lowered, and the window size should be as approved in the approved drawings, with the explicit intention of having them align with the neighbor to the left. The cornice, the new cornice should be dropped to align with the neighbor to the left as well. The resulting exposure of material, roofing related materials above that cornice line should be cut back to the extent that code permits, and should be clad in a material and color that is approved by the staff.
Thank you. And Commissioner Ginsburg, would you second that motion?
Second.
Thank you. Mark, will you call the vote?
Chair Carroll.
Aye.
Commissioner Chapin.
Aye.
Commissioner Chu.
Aye.
Commissioner Ginsburg.
Aye.
Commissioner Goldblum.
Aye.
Commissioner Jefferson. Commissioner Lutfi.
Aye.
Commissioner Master.
Aye.
With 8 in favor and none opposed, the motion passes.
That's it. Thank you. Please continue to work with the staff, and we'll move to the next public hearing item.
Next item is public hearing item number 5, LPC 25-01278, an application for a certificate of appropriateness in the Borough of Manhattan, Block 1216, Lot 104, 167 West 85th Street in the Upper West Side Central Park West Historic District. This is a Romanesque Revival style row house built in 1889 to 90. The application is to construct a rear yard addition.
Hello again, Commissioners. Jackie Pudu-Vallon of JPD Preservation Consulting. I am here with, please move forward. Hold on. Okay, sorry. I'm here with Nelson Cordero of Grasso Menziuso Architects. This is an application for a rear addition on a row house in the Upper West Side Historic District. 167 West 85th Street is located on the north side of the street between Columbus and Amsterdam, closer to Amsterdam. It was built as part of a row of 4 houses that extended from 167 to 173. The designation report notes that a 4th floor has already been added to both 169 and 173 West 85th, and that 171 West 85th was replaced by a larger building, a larger building in the 1930s. So here's the existing condition of the rear facade. It has an existing 3-story rear L. The proposed alteration is to build a 4-story full-width addition featuring pairs of sliding glass doors at each floor. These doors become smaller from the lower floors to the upper floors, which helps to maintain a hierarchy of opening size in the facade at the rear. A metal deck is also proposed at the 1st floor with a stair leading into the backyard and balconies at the 2nd and 3rd floors. The top floor rear facade is to remain unchanged and untouched. Here's the proposed rear facade in context with its immediate neighbors. Again, the house to the left was built as part of another row, and the house to the right is of the same row as 167. You can see here that at 169, there is a rear L that has already been altered with a 1-story full-width addition. Here's an axon to show you the proposed additional volume shaded in gray. Here are photographs documenting the view into the rear yard taken from the roof on the left, and the existing rooftop additions and rear additions at neighboring buildings to the east. It was somewhat difficult to get good photos looking very deep into this block. So what I'm showing you here today is going to be unfortunately the best we could do. You can see that there's a 1-story addition that's already been added to the top of additions at the rear of 159 to 161 West 85th Street. Those were 2 houses that were combined at the interior. Let's see. You can see that a little bit more in better detail here at this center photograph. So again, you can see that an addition on the top of a pair of rear Ls, which has essentially created an addition similar in volume to what we're proposing today. In the photo on the right, you can see the 1-story addition that extends pretty far into the rear yard at 169. Now, a bit about the development of this block. At the end of the 19th century, it was a pretty homogeneous block in terms of building types and scale. As you can see in the map from 1897 on the top, it was a block mainly characterized by row houses. By 1912, the block had lost that uniformity as large apartment buildings were constructed on 86th Street and at Columbus Avenue. And here's the existing block plan with the heights of existing rear additions color-coded and the locations of existing rooftop additions shown shaded in gray. The green indicates the one-story addition at the rear of 169, and the light blue and dark blue indicates where there are existing four-story additions. I'd also like to point out that the red line indicating the red line you see kind of going through the middle of the block indicates the extent of the historic district within this block. So the apartment buildings on 86th Street behind 167 West 85th are not actually in the district. And here's the proposed block plan with the addition at 167 added in red. Here's the existing building section and the proposed building section. There will be 16 inches of excavation at the cellar, which will not require underpinning. There will be additional excavation under the proposed addition, as seen here in this proposed basement plan. And here we're just showing you existing and proposed plans for the rear yard, maintaining a planting bed at the perimeter and at the rear. Just to show you some examples of similar approvals within this district. These are previous approvals from 2014 and from 2023, where you had full width rear additions approved. And also a similar design for balconies in front of paired sliding glass doors were approved in the last few years at 154 and 156 West 88th Street. And that is our presentation, and we look forward to your questions and comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Do we have questions, commissioners? Yes, Commissioner Ginsburg.
Why are the window heads not lined up with the adjacent buildings as they were before the renovation on the, I think it's second and third floors,
Hold on.
and maybe third and fourth?
Well, I'm going to answer that, and then I'm going to ask the architect to also answer. First off, the building on one side, 165, that was built as part of a different row. So those windows, I think they're shown a little not quite accurately here in that they don't really align with the existing windows at 167. So I'd like to ask the architect to give the rest of the answer to that. Thanks.
Good morning. My name is Nelson Cordero. I'm with Grasso Menzies Architects. So to answer the question about the window alignment, as you can see, the adjacent window heads are pretty high compared to the new doors that we're proposing. Aligning them with the same window headers will create a pretty large opening, which will sort of go against, what the rules are.
Right. So I think the issue is that you're doing doors, and so you need to bring it down to the floor level.
That's correct.
And if you kept the lintel aligned, you'd have very tall doors.
And you would sort of not have the order in height from the lowest floor to the upper floors.
Right, the proportions.
Sorry, has the top of finished floor changed from the existing addition to your new addition?
The height of the
Did you
floor?
change the floor elevation?
No, the floor elevations have stayed the same.
I don't understand.
It's just that it's doors instead of windows, and so, right, in the addition. So you see the little windows in the adjacent L are, not only is their head, the
very
head is higher, the sill is higher as well. So if you just dropped the sill, the doors, how tall are the doors as you propose?
Well, they're different floors, but the first floor door is about 8 feet. I would say the basement and the first floor, and then the upper floor is at 7 feet with the not a transom, just 7 feet.
All right, other questions? All right, let's move to public testimony, and I'll note that there is no one in the hearing room to speak, so I will turn it over to Gregory to see if we have any remote participants.
Thank you, Chair Carroll. We have a couple of remote participants with their hands raised. The first we'll be hearing from is Megan Fitzpatrick from Landmark West. Megan Fitzpatrick, I just promoted you to panelist. Please unmute your line and state your name for the record. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. Thank you.
Hello, Commissioners. Megan Fitzpatrick speaking on behalf of Landmark West. The Landmark West Certificate of Appropriateness Committee objects to this proposed 4-story full-width rear yard addition. Although at the edge of the district and at the edge of this row, if approved, this would be the only 4-story full-width rear yard addition within this donut. We bemoan the constant encroachment upon the donut and its impact on adequate light and air. Further, our committee takes umbrage with the fact that precedents cited are both projects with outstanding landmarks violations for their respective C of As. We urge the applicant to consider maintaining a 3-story height at the rear to preserve the donut and improve the quality of life for our community. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Next up, we'll be hearing from Lucy Levine from the Historic Districts Council. Lucy Levine, I'm promoting you to panelist right now. Please unmute your line and state your name for the record. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. Thank you.
Hi, Commissioners. My name is Lucy Levine. I'm speaking on behalf of the Historic Districts Council. Though it's outside of this commission's purview, HDC wanted to note that we are thrilled to see this row house adding additional multifamily housing units to this district. In terms of the application itself, we hope the applicant will return with a revised design. We find the currently proposed rear yard addition to be 1 story too high and compositionally out of context with other row house rears. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. I do not see any additional hands raised, so I will note for the record that Manhattan Community Board 7 recommends approval with the suggestion that the hardscape be as permeable as possible. And with that, I'll bring it back to you, Chair Carroll.
Okay, so would you like to respond to the comments?
Thank you. Well, I would like to point out that, is it okay if I scroll again? I just want to get back to the block plan. Do I have control? Okay. Oh, okay. Sorry. Okay, so I just wanted to point out that in terms of the appropriateness of this, the size of this addition, there is that addition which you see in blue, which is, yes, it's a pair of rear Ls on the backs of 2 houses that were combined at the interior. But I think that this addition we're proposing today is comparable to the existing condition of how that, how those 2 rear Ls were altered because a 1-story addition was added on top of those rear Ls. So what we're creating is contextual in that sense, because you already have what is in effect a 4-story full width addition, only by virtue of the fact that those 2 houses were combined together. And yes, this is also an extreme edge of the district where you're not having this rear of this building facing into buildings that are within the district. You have alterations that are already changing the relationship of this house to the other houses in its row by virtue of the fact that you have this strange 1-story addition on one of the neighboring houses, and you also have very prominent rooftop additions that extend to the very rear facade on neighboring houses as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Any final? Yes, Commissioner.
Was that
Goldblum?
light blue addition approved by the commission?
Yes. It's an addition on top of rear Ls. I can try to get to a photo, the best photo I
remember
could get
it's
of it.
got the white stucco on top of the brick.
Yes, that center photo. You see it there.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, Commissioner Jefferson.
Windows align with the existing windows, is that?
No.
The new windows in the proposed addition, or the windows in the proposed addition, are actually doors onto a balcony. So they extend down to the floor, which the windows don't, and then they've lowered the head. So if they were taller, you could make them taller, but then you'd have taller doors, and so you'd have to imagine what those proportions would look like.
Thank you.
All right. If there are no other questions, we'll move to our discussion. Commissioner Chapin, would you make a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Thank you. Commissioner Ginsburg, would you second that motion?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, so this is an application to construct an addition that is no deeper than the existing L, but 1 story taller. And we've had much discussion about the fenestration. They're proposing doors onto balconies in this case. And so their head height is lower than the head height on the windows in the adjacent Ls. And the applicant has shown that while the majority of the additions in this block are 2 and 3 stories, there are a couple of other examples where the commission has approved another floor onto the existing additions in the back. So we'll begin our discussion. Commissioner Chu.
Sure. So this house is near the end of the block. I was looking at the map. There is 171 is a full build out of the lot. And so you are in a situation where you're not in the middle of the street where the historic character of the paired projections are consistent. However, when I look at the massing of the proposed, I feel it really does, in my mind, alter the character of the block. I do realize that the north side of the block was historically houses as well, when it created a donut, but it's been changed with mass housing. So that does make me feel more lenient to this condition. However, I do think that by coming up an extra floor to the 4th floor, it creates a mass that is very different than what the existing massing was. I feel that I could accept a 3-story full width build out. I do realize that we had approved in the past a 4th-story addition to existing houses, but to me that was on top of the plan that had the Ls and not changing the footprint here. So I think that for me, I can't accept both. I think that I can accept the addition as a full width, but not to intrude in that upper 4th floor realm. I think that's the bigger change to me in terms of massing to the block. Those are my comments.
Right. Commissioner Master.
Yeah, so I think that the 4-story rear yard addition, the depth of it is similar to what exists. The question is, can we go up the full four stories? And for me, I feel that the donut can support this, and that we do have an example of another 4-story addition nearby that we have approved. I also think it's compelling that it's a family home. So, that extra space, I think, is probably important as living space. In terms of the lintels and the windows aligning, I understand the situation that we have, even though it doesn't align anymore with adjacent buildings. And I don't really know how you would solve for that. So I think I'm okay with the lintels and the windows, I guess, misaligned as they are. So I can accept this as proposed.
Commissioners, Sarah, can I just jump in? I just want to remind everybody that we have no control over whether this will in fact be a multifamily home. So tomorrow they could decide, 4 stories, we're going to make it a single family home. So not that may change with your views, but just so we're all clear that we all want to, there's obviously, supporting housing is a good thing, but appropriateness and not sort of the use, we have to be sure we're clear about that.
Okay. Right. Commissioner Jefferson.
this is a tough one. I would agree that a 3-story addition is probably preferred. I've seen the fourth floor addition, but in this particular case, 3-story seems adequate. The concern about the window, the block, because this building sticks out somehow, I don't get the clear reading of the lintels, and I'm not sure. I think it, in terms of the picturesque, the lintels work really, if they can match them, I would agree that they should align them. But that's a question. I want to hear from fellow architects.
Okay. Commissioner Goldblum?
Thanks. I certainly agree that it would be better if it were a third. It was only a 3-story thing, but I could accept the 4th story if it were set back by a couple of feet and were rendered in either a different material or different fenestration, so that you got the sense of the rhythm of the block, which is pretty strong, even with the modifications that have been made over time. I could accept that if the top floor of the addition were set back. Although I certainly would support others if it were possible to remove it altogether, it would certainly be better. I think in terms of the headers over the windows, it seems like a fairly easy thing to do. You just put a transom. What's the big deal? You know? Now, that said, we usually don't ride people too hard on the aesthetics of rear facades, but that's often in the context of wholesale redesigns that are quite a bit more radical than this. And is it possible that if someone is doing something less radical, we would hold them to a higher standard? I don't know. If others felt that it were necessary, it's really not a hard thing for them to do, but I personally can live with it as is.
Right, thank you. Commissioner Ginsburg?
Well, I think I could live with the massing as is, although I agree with Commissioner Goldblum, it would be better if that top floor of the addition was set back a bit. I do think it would be easy to align the lintels and put a clear story over the door if they didn't want to put such a tall door. So I would want to see that happen.
All right, Commissioner Chapin?
Yeah, I agree with Commissioner with Michael's suggestion about the setting back, of the 4th floor. I can accept a pretty hefty addition because it is near these large buildings and across from these large buildings. And though it is next to, I think, a 1-story addition on the other side, but and there is some precedent for 4-story additions here, so though not full width necessarily, but I think I could go along with it if it's the top is set back. And suggestion about aligning the lintels is, I think would improve its relationship, and is probably not that hard to really deal with, so.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Lutfi?
So, I mean, my preference is actually that I definitely think the lintel should be aligned and it shouldn't be a big deal. It's not built. It's not like the last. So, and I do feel that we don't need the extra story. The building doesn't, in terms of what's going on in the rest of the block, it seems to make more sense not to have the 4th. This is irrelevant, but I'm a little surprised since there are full width balconies, that there are these very short balconies that I'm not sure of what the purpose is for that. But whatever. I think it would have serviced the people in the units better to give them a little more space. And it would have been a little more consistent with the overall rear design.
Okay. All right. Okay. So I think we've had a lot of thoughts about this addition. I think we do have a number of commissioners who could support 4 stories, but with some design changes. And also a number of commissioners who commented on the proportions of the doors and the lintel height. So I think we'll take no action today, and we'll give you the opportunity to restudy the proportions of the windows and think about how you want to address that. And if you want to pursue the 4th floor, to think about the design suggestions that have been made to help distinguish it from the existing addition and the predominant height of the Ls. All right. Thank you. Thanks. All right. So that concludes our morning session. We're going to now break for a half an hour for lunch. So we will resume at 1 o'clock. And we'll ask all members of the public to leave the hearing room at this time. And we'll ask all members of the public on Zoom to voluntarily exit the Zoom meeting at this time, so that should you wish to return, you don't experience any technical difficulties that might arise if we have to remove you from the meeting. And we'll see everybody at 1 o'clock. Thank you.
Okay.